go through, well, the Social Security agency also collects information on cases, on these individuals who have been infected. They don't report every day. So over a period of days, then they will send their report and it will be added to what Mensa has collected. And I know that has been a point of contention. So we are doing our job here, and we're doing well. And thank you everybody for maintaining the safety measures that were put in place. Now, the government did reiterate something because there was some confusion about the opening of the second block. They reiterated that despite the relaxation of the quarantine on June 1st, walks to the beach, to rivers, recreational pools, as well as other social and festive activities in public places are still prohibited. Okay, so, excuse me, this doesn't mean that on Monday morning, you'll all go out and have a giant picnic at the park, or, get a group of people and go hiking. There are still restrictions in place, and they did tell us that it was going to be slow and deliberate how they open everything. So have some patience, and we will, I promise, we will all get through this. One last thing I wanted to remind you, that even though on Monday things are going to be relaxed, free movement between the provinces is still restricted. Now, we here in Chiriqui, particularly in the Boquete area, have been fortunate not to have a lot of cases and a lot of infections because of the diligence that our country here has put in place in coming into Chiriqui province from outside areas. So unless you have paperwork that states you have a reason to leave or enter the province, don't bother. Now, if you have a business in another province, if you own property in another province, if you have legitimate means to get there, if you have your paperwork, you will be allowed to pass unencumbered. But if you're just trying to get to the beach somewhere, I wouldn't recommend that. Anyway, so I just wanted to let you all know what's going on here. Again, I'm really proud of us here in Chiriqui province and in Boquete. I know it's been very stressful over these past months, but we are making forward progress, and as long as we behave ourselves, I think we'll be opening up the next block within the next couple of weeks. Anyway, enough of that. Roger, we call him Roger here as gringos, but I know the pronunciation is Roger Guerra, is with me today, and like I said, his family owns this radio station. Your dad started it, didn't he? Yeah. And the involvement of his family in the development of this province and access to other provinces that have been previously inaccessible is a fascinating story. So welcome to the show, Roger.
Thank you very much, Al. And first of all, I want to congratulate you because, my God, you are the informer. I mean, through social media and the radio, you're informing all the English-speaking people what's going on, and with a lot of responsibility, transparency, and credibility.
I appreciate
that. So I really congratulate you. And thank you, and hello to everybody.
Are we on Facebook now? Facebook Live?
It's funny because my name, I asked my father, why did you call me Roger? Or why did, it was after the Second World War and all the English names were in fashion.
Yeah.
He called my everybody was celebrating. Panama was, remember there were 137 military bases here defending the Panama Canal. Even the David Airport was a military base.
Yeah.
And all the, it was fashionably. My brother was Roderick. I was Roger. And but I found out later on that my wife calls me Roger. It's French.
Well, she's French.
In Brazil, they call me Rogerio. And so it's very international. And everybody's asking me, how is Boquete doing? And I just checked my cell phone here. It is 22 degrees Celsius.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to rain this afternoon.
Oh, of course.
They say 100% probability.
You can look out the window here and see that it's going to rain.
That's true. Yeah, but it's a beautiful day. I enjoy rain.
I do too.
You too.
We had a heck of a storm last night.
And it's funny because I'm always the interviewer, and now I'm the interviewee. So But it's fun to be on your on. I had a dream. I used to work with the Panama Canal for 35 years, doing documentaries and radio and television productions. And I had a dream to move to Boquete when I retired. Why Boquete? Well, I don't have to say that. I don't have to mention it. But my family had 2 radio stations in David, and I said, what if I start a studio there? Yeah. What if Boqueteños don't have to go to David to do radio? And it's working. And then I asked me, when I started here in Boquete, I asked myself a question: what if I start doing English? Why not? There are more than 7,000 English-speaking people,
like that.
And not just U.S. but Canadians and
sure.
English. And English is the international language for Panama. Well, having the Panama Canal here.
They say if you speak English and Spanish, you can communicate with 80% of the world.
I think so. Yes, You're right. And guess what? My family was like, they were not too sure about it, but I said, I'm responsible for the whole thing, and guess what? I think it's working.
Yeah.
And when I came to Boquete, nobody listened to radio. The English speaking, nobody listened to radio, but then we started throwing the YouTube, and now you're watching, it's like a radio station with a TV cameras, and we got 2 cameras here in our mobile unity here in Boquete, and for the 2 radio stations. And I'm very happy to have Radio Chiriqui here. And by the way, I want to say hello to Veronica. She's in the studio in David.
Hola, Veronica.
Veronica, hola. And then I said, who is going to be the engineer here? And I went to a restaurant here across the street. It's called Picatas, and I went to Picatas to have a burger there.
I love that place, man.
And I started working. I started talking to Bolivar Urreola.
If you're watching, there he is.
Bolivar, he's right here.
He's amazing.
And I said, Bolivar, what are you doing? He says, well, I'm in the senior year of social communications. And I said, wow, I'm opening a radio station here in Boquete, and would you like to participate in this experiment? And he says, for sure.
Yeah, man.
And he's part of it, and Veronica is part of it, and now we have. It's like tomorrow, Al. I wanted to mention that Dr.
Absolutely.
Shannon.
I love her. I really do. She's wonderful.
Yes, she's going to have her own show tomorrow.
Yeah, I read that.
Starting at 10 o'clock. So I invite you to be part of what's going on medically speaking.
That's very important.
That's true, and we
can thank Cynthia for being part of that too.
And Cynthia is involved, and Barbara is involved.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy about it because we have English shows from Boquete and Spanish also.
Yeah. Well, I've completely enjoyed being part of the Radio Chiriqui family.
Thank you.
It's been more than a year when we started, and I've had the opportunity here to introduce people in our community to the listening audience, people that are making a positive effect and doing good things in town. Because you could always find people complaining. That's just the nature of human nature. But it's nice to be able to put someone out there that has a story to tell. That here's what we're doing for Boqueteños and for Chiricanos, and it's been an honor for me, to come here every Friday.
Thank you very much. Yeah. You are doing a wonderful job. And when I learned that in Boquete, most of the clubs, all the clubs doing things for animals, for handicapped people, for indigenous people, were foreigners. And I said, these people are important for the community.
Yes, I truly believe
and Panamanians who love English, and I'm pretty sure a lot of Panamanians are listening to the show right now because they want to learn it. And a way to start comprehending is to listen, and little by little. When I met Bolivar, he didn't speak a word of English, and now
he speaks great English now.
he was a part of with my nephew Manuel Ramon. He was a part of the Radio Chiriqui group that went to China. He spent a month in China.
Wow.
Learning. And what city, Bolivar? What's he's
he's engineering.
Yeah, he engineer, right? And he spent a month, before of course COVID-19. But this is Radio Chiriqui. It's your radio, and why don't we give him a couple of phone numbers, or well, you're always on the, because you can be part of Boquete Now, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
If you have something important that you're doing.
Yeah, we have a Facebook page too,
Right.
Boquete Now Talk Radio, and if anyone has any, questions, or if they have any suggestions, or if they say, hey, you know what, I've been doing this in town, or my group has been doing this in
Okay.
town. Just let us know. I'll be more than happy to have you on the show. Absolutely, that would be great.
And some people in Chiriquí said, no, but Spanish is the official language of Panama.
Sure it is. Yeah.
And I told those people, when I lived in the States, I went to college there in the States. When I was in the States, there were radio stations with special programs for all the minority groups.
Absolutely.
In Chinese, Korean, Vietnamese, Spanish, Portuguese, in the United States of America. And I said, in Panama, why not? We got more than 7,000 English speaking in Chiriquí, and plus the Bocas del Toro people, and we're all over the world through the internet.
Yeah,
So
absolutely, yeah.
that's the best support.
Oh, and speaking of on the internet,
Okay.
you can download the Radio Garden app.
Yes.
On either Google Play or the Apple apps, the App Store. It's a free app.
And wonderful.
And when you get it, there's a little search box there, and just type in Radio Cherokee 103.3 FM, and it'll start playing immediately. And there's a little heart there. If you click that, now it's in your favorites. And
That's
you can
true.
listen to any show. We got our show. We have Mike Weber's show is coming on later today. We have Cynthia's show, which is Mondays at 10, and now Dr. Shannon's show
yes.
tomorrow. So I know a lot of people may not have radios, or sometimes, as it happens, the internet goes down, Wi-Fi goes down. But if you have a mobile phone, you could
True.
always tune in and listen. Yeah.
But radios are cheap. You can
know,
go
right?
you can buy a $10 radio.
Yeah. Yeah, they are. They are.
Yes, and this is it. And what I like about radio, what is the big advantage of radio is that you can be cooking, you
Yeah.
can be doing other things, and listen to the radio.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, YouTube is great, obviously, but you got to sit there and you have to pay
True.
attention to it.
True.
And it's the same thing with social media. It's interactive to the point where you have to, and that's great. I mean, that's a fantastic way to communicate. But radio, and I've been involved in radio for almost 40 years now. That's the beauty of it. It's background.
True.
You can continue. You can cook. They make shower radios. You can hang a radio
True.
in the shower now and listen to the radio while you're showering. But no, radio to me has always had a very special place in my life. I started off with CBS radio up in New York back in the late 70s, early 80s. And
Wow.
it's always been something that when I'm driving in my car, if I'm driving from David back here, or from over in Santiago, as soon as I can get radio, I listen to the radio in my car. I don't listen
Fantastic.
to CDs. I don't plug my phone in. I have
That's
the
a waste
radio.
of time.
I have the radio on.
You can listen to music in your house, but when you're in the car, hey, use us. We're there to serve you. Radio, I went to the Chinese community here in Chiriquí, and I said, would you be interested in having a Chinese
language
in
radio.
Mandarin, And they thought about it, and who's going to be responsible. They haven't answered yet.
Yeah, well,
But I
hopefully
think
they
it's
will.
important.
Well, the Panama is as you say, every time you post, the bridge of the world.
That's true.
And there just about every possible nationality that is involved in any kind of shipping comes through our canal.
That's right.
And there's a wide variety of non-Spanish speaking communities here, and we have a huge Asian population here.
You know, you mentioned something very important. You know, when I used to work at the Panama Canal, we went into ships, and you find 35 nationalities. You got Filipinos, people from India, well, all over the world. But there was one language of communication, English.
Yeah.
And that's the shipping, language of the world. And it's important.
It's generally
So
transportation.
Panamanians are using our programs. It's like Dr. Shan tomorrow is going to be in Spanglish,
Yeah.
as we say.
Yeah.
A little bit of.
I've been getting good at Spanglish.
Yeah, that's true. And I said it's a challenge, But before I go on, I have a tip that I'm going to do it
Sure.
Monday, if you can, or today. Fill up your tank,
Oh yeah.
because
Prices are
gasoline
gonna
is
go
going to
right
go
back
up gradually. As more people start using their cars,
Yeah.
gasoline will go up.
Yeah. Right now I'm getting about 3 days to the gallon.
That's great,
Yeah.
huh?
But no, that's definitely a good point. And the Panamanian government always announces when prices are going up. You can get that on TVN2, probably through here too.
Usually Fridays.
They'll announce, okay, this is what the gas prices are going to be, and we've really been enjoying. I filled my tank up. I have an SUV. I filled my tank up for $22. That's normally a $40 bill, and
True.
and we'll get back to it. We'll get back to
I
it.
think so. Yeah.
But, yeah. One of the things when you and I have obviously have talked a lot over the last year or two, and you had and I didn't know this. When I first got here, my wife and I went walking around town. Excuse me, and I always noticed as I was walking down the river road, but on the other side of the BCP, that Jeep that's sitting on the rocks inside of the fairgrounds. And I never knew what it was, and you and I had a conversation about that, and then you filled me in on the story, and I think that's an incredible story. So if you would just let everyone know, hey, why is that Jeep sitting over there, and why is it so significant to our province and to our neighbors to the north?
Because there was no road between Bocas del Toro and Chiriquí, and the government always said during the 60s and the 70s, that it was impossible to build a road. So
Yeah.
a group of Chiricanos, most of them ecological groups,
Sure.
and my father was one of the. My father started a campaign on the radio and the paper in 1950. Bocas needs a road.
1950.
1950.
This goes back a while.
1950. He started every day on the radio, and Bocas del Toro needs a road. We need a road. We need a road. A group of Chiricanos, Ingeniero Landau, a group of people, I'm not going to start mentioning names. They say, why don't we take a car, a four-wheel drive car, to Bocas del Toro through the mountains with voluntaries to prove the government that it's possible a road there. And these people spend 34 days in 1974. And I was part of the group, but I didn't spend the whole time there. I was taking photos and giving radio reports. And when these people arrived with a car in the Caribbean Sea, Chiriquí Grande,
Yeah.
they look like hippies. They look like gorillas,
Like they've been
all with
born.
beards and long hair, and animals. They picked from the jungle, and the car, and they were so happy. And the government of Panama, they had to build a road. So that car there is responsible for showing the government that it was possible
To build a road.
and to build a road between Bocas del Toro. And now Bocas del Toro,
Sure, yeah.
it was.
So
So that's the story.
So they basically built the road in front of the car as they were progressing there.
Something like that. And they also took advantage to pump oil from the Caribbean Sea to Puerto Armuelles
Yes. I
by
know.
the road, parallel to the road.
Yeah.
So it was good. It was good. And the road, I understand, is not in very, very good shape.
There are parts of it. Most of it actually, because I had been
Slides.
We went to
Landslides.
Bocas.
Yeah.
I don't know, about maybe a month before the quarantine. Right before, and most of it's still in very good shape. Or in
It's a beautiful, you know, all the sight
but
scenery.
yeah, there are parts of it that do need attention. There's some washouts, but
Okay.
you know, this is a tropical climate. It's going to
That's
happen.
true. That's true.
But I noticed that the first time I went in November, the parts of the road that were almost impassable, when I went back 3 weeks later, they had repaired them. So they're doing a really, really good job of keeping up with that.
Well, you know, Al, I'm glad you mentioned this Jeep that
Yeah.
is sitting on the fair, because that has a lot of relations with last week's anniversary of the province of
Right,
Chiriqui.
171 years old.
That's true. That's true. Well, it turns out to be like Bocas del Toro and Chiriqui were the same province. It was called the province of Chiriqui.
Mm-hmm.
And the government of Colombia, that was in 1849, we used to be part of Colombia.
Right, yeah.
The La Gran Colombia, that was the name of it, a dream of Simón Bolívar. So they started organizing everything, and they decided to separate Bocas del Toro and Chiriqui. No, first of all, from Veraguas. From Veraguas, we were part of Veraguas, and Chiriqui became, you know.
So Veraguas was Veraguas, Chiriqui, and Bocas del Toro.
No, Veraguas was, I mean, Bocas del Toro, Chiriqui, and Veraguas were Veraguas, the whole thing.
It was all one province.
So last week, it was our anniversary, our birthday,
Yes.
and we, because we separated from Veraguas. Later on, Bocas del Toro separated from Chiriqui and became a province.
So this explains why the Bay of Chiriqui is
Yes,
in
the
Bocas.
26th of May,
Yeah.
171 years. And, well, we used to celebrate, but this year we couldn't.
Well, yeah.
Last year was in Boquete, and this year the celebration was going to be in Bugawa. But we couldn't do anything because of the COVID-19. But a lot of relations between that car there sitting on the fair and the anniversary of the province.
Yeah. Now Cherokee, you know, and I don't know probably as much as I should about Cherokee, but a lot of what I've learned about the province in general, I've learned from reading your articles that you post. And they are very, very interesting. And I see a lot of history there. I love the pictures. You know, when you post it, well, here's Boquete in 1930. It's basically a dirt road with a couple of buildings. But, you know, if you look hard enough at those pictures, some of those buildings are still there.
True.
And you can see a lot of the similarities, you know, that go on there. And you've been around here, your family's been around here for a while. The development of Boquete, is there anything you can share with us about your experience or your family's experience as far as the development of our town here?
Well, Boquete used to be, you know, very agriculture, and of course there's going to be people who is against foreigners moving in, and everything is changing, and prices start to change. But you can stop if you make if you do an election, a voting experience, and you ask one question: would you like, yes or no, would you like foreigners to stay in Boquete? I would say that 98% of the people are going to say yes.
Yeah, and you know, there's always going to be. I mean, there's no
minority.
Perfect, you know, there's always
Very
gonna be a
little
few people,
minority.
But you mentioned earlier, you know, a lot of the groups here, you know, the foreigners that come here, especially those of us that have retirement money coming in,
Yes.
we're looking for something to do with that. And this is an extremely generous community, and I've had people on this show from, like you said earlier, from the Handicap Foundation, from the various animal rescue groups, from the hospice, health and hospice, and all of these fundraisers that they have, and the equipment that is available. I mean, if you fall down and you break a leg, and you need a hospital bed, they'll give you one, a wheelchair, crutches.
Amazing.
And
Amigos de Boquete.
And you know,
Yeah.
it's because as foreigners, we chose to come here, and this is our
Sure.
home. This is our community. We
Sure.
love this town. We love this province. You know, we're very very involved in trying to do what we can. You know, and it's not a white knight thing. We're not coming in here trying to, you know, oh, we're going to rescue you. Panama, you know, has gotten by without us in the past, and they're obviously a wonderful country. But this is our home. This is my home.
Sure.
And I personally, and my friends who were involved in these volunteer groups, our goal is to try to make it a better place for everybody.
That's true.
You know, yeah, go ahead.
And you are doing a great job. Probably you didn't think about it, but the job that you're doing, you are informing everybody, which is so important. I mean, it's just great.
Well, you know, my goal is, you know, when we came up in radio, you know, when we came up in news, nobody really knew about the newscaster. It wasn't important to know, you know, David Brinkley's family history or Walter Cronkite's political views. It didn't matter. It wasn't important. Their job, they had one job: to tell people what's going on in the world and what's going on your local news. And I know there's a place out there for punditry, there's a place out there for commentary and all that, but I came up as a newsman. So I don't put my opinion I don't believe my opinion is important in the context of news broadcasting. Here's what's going on, here's the facts, here's what you need to know, and if you
Sure.
want to comment on it, you know, have a conversation by all means. But my job as a news journalist is to just report. That's it. Just
That's
report.
true.
And
That's true. The facts.
yeah, just the facts. And it is becoming increasingly harder to do that, obviously, as you know. But you know, you get TVN2 is a very respected news source. La Prensa. You've got I know some people don't particularly like Panama America, but I've vetted most of their stories are accurate. And as long as I am able to inform our community, you know, everyone's going to make a choice based on what they hear. But my job, I feel, is to just present. Here's what's going on. Here's what they said. Here's what's happening. Here's what has happened.
And that's the policy that we're following at Radio Chiriqui.
Yeah.
I'm not part of any political group.
Yeah.
Everybody is free to come to Radio Chiriqui. I don't even ask them.
Yeah.
I mean, we have the mayor of Boquete doing a show here.
Yeah.
He belongs to a party. We got people before the Millo.
Mm-hmm.
He belonged to another party. We don't care. This is open door policy, and Radio Chiriqui, we don't ask you what religion you are, what race you are, what political inclinations you have. No.
Yeah. And well, that's what gives a media outlet credibility. And you know, there's media outlets for everything, for every walk of life, for every opinion, for every political group, for every religious affiliation. But if you remain open to everybody and remain unbiased, you will get credibility, and you will also earn respect. Even if people don't agree with what your program or a particular program is, they know, hey, but you know what though, they don't discriminate.
That's true.
You know, and it's a rare thing, but it works very well here, especially with Radio Chiriqui.
Yeah, and another thing is we pay a lot of attention to technology.
Yeah.
A year before COVID-19 started, we were playing around with Skype, we were playing around with YouTube, internet. You know, I mean, you name it, and we used it.
Yeah.
And when COVID-19 obligated everybody to stay home, we were working.
Oh yeah.
And we were, you know, we never stopped through this pandemic. So
and
it's important.
Well, that's tenacity. You know, I mean, I've done shows through the quarantine. We've done shows with Skype, and there's obviously, you know, there's always going to be a technical problem. I've done a couple of shows on WhatsApp, holding the phone up to the microphone.
True.
You know, but we always find a way. And Boulevard, he's the glue. He keeps everything together. And sometimes, you know, when you try new things, there's glitches. Sometimes maybe the audio isn't what it should be. But it's better to try to continue what you're programming than to say, well, we can't do it until it's over. People still need to know what's going on. People still need to know that there are individuals who are committed to continuing important programming. And what we do here on this whole show, this whole station here, I believe is very important program. I'll be listening to Dr. Shannon tomorrow. I listen to Cynthia's show. Mike Weber has a great rock and roll radio show. I have his stuff blasting. I have the app. I have the app on my phone, and I plug my phone into my stereo system.
TuneIn or Garden?
No, Garden Radio. Yeah,
oh, it's fantastic.
And you know, his music is all over the house. You know, so these programs that we have here, and the way that you're promoting more of this type programming, is, to me, you know, it's kind of like we need to keep this medium alive. Don't forget about radio.
That's true.
You know, don't. We're here, and we're very important, and we play a very vital role in our local community. And it's not the same as Facebook or YouTube. It's its own a channel of communication.
That's true.
That hopefully will remain for many, many years to come.
I hope so.
So your family has been here in Chiriqui for a long, long time.
You know, it's funny because my grandmother, she had 7 children, and because of the economics, she moved to Panama City with all the children.
Yeah.
And the only one who escaped and came back to Chiriqui was my papa. My father's name was Ramon Guerra, and a very well-known journalist in Chiriquí, and he started working with La Razón, which was a newspaper in David. And then he went into radio.
Well, I wanted to ask you about that. How it's always amazing to me, or very interesting to me, the birth story of radio stations. You know, I've worked on and off over the years for local radio stations, and I asked the owner, say, how did the station come about? And some of the stories I've heard were fantastic. Some were but it's a very interesting story, because I know some of it, of how Radio Chiriqui got started in the first place.
Okay, there are 2 important things. When we started Radio Chiriqui was April the 1st, and the Boquete Feria, the Boquete Fair started the same day. But there was a big flood.
April 1st of what year?
1970.
1970.
And there was the biggest flood, or the largest, I don't know how you say it, but in Boquete. The Rio Caldera just destroyed all the flowers there at the fair, and it took down some houses. And the first day of Radio Chiriqui, we didn't celebrate. We started working right away.
Oh yeah, hit the ground running.
Oh yeah. There were no internet. I mean, we were with a cassette recorder, transmitting from a helicopter, and then, doing things like that. So the first day, as the Panama Canal, the day the Panama Canal started, it was the same day that the First World War started.
Oh wow! Yeah.
So the headlines of the paper around the world, it wasn't the opening of the Panama Canal. It was the war, and also, and there's an important thing. During the military government, Manuel Antonio Noriega was in charge.
Yes, yeah.
And he closed down Radio Chiriqui.
Oh, did he? See, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was 1970, 1981, 80. I don't remember. I wasn't here.
Yeah.
He closed. In radio, we have a little tube that if you take that tube from the transmitter,
it's done.
It's gone.
Yeah.
So 2 people went to my father's radio station and said, "We need the tube. We need to take down that tube. We're closing Radio Chiriqui." But they didn't do it the way that it's supposed to be, with a letter through
official,
the ministry.
Yeah.
No, just by war, you know. So they closed Radio Chiriqui, and that was the best thing that Radio Chiriqui that happened to Radio Chiriqui, because the solidarity of the people.
Oh yeah.
Even though we were under a military government, it was great.
Wow.
I mean, people were shouting and writing letters and telegrams. If people don't remember telegrams,
Yeah, I remember telegrams.
sending telegrams to the government. So they had to reopen Radio Chiriqui, and that was a big mistake by the government.
Sure.
And he had to accept it, you know. So, you know, starting Radio Chiriqui with the big flood in Boquete, and then they closed down Radio Chiriqui, and Radio Chiriqui started with AM.
Yeah, oh, I read that. Yeah.
We were an AM station, but the electricity for an AM station is so, at least here in Panama, it was so, I mean,
It's expensive.
expensive.
Sure, yeah.
And one time I told my father, Papa, why don't we get permission to operate FM from the Baru volcano? And he says, no, but FM is not popular. FM is just for rock and roll and for classical music. AM is yeah, Papa, but it's so strong. And I convinced my father that was the way.
The way to go.
That was the way to go. And we used to pay about $1,600 monthly in electricity, and we went down to $400.
To $400, yeah.
And from the volcano, we started transmitting to Bocas del Toro, and the signal is much
Well, it's you know,
clear.
FM. For those of you who don't know, AM is amplitude modulation, and
Right.
it's a very energy dependent form of transmitting, of putting a signal together. And FM is a frequency modulation, as you
Higher.
know, Roger. That it's a lot more. Not only is it more efficient, but the signal travels further.
True.
And you can broadcast in stereo, which you can't do very well anyway on AM. The antenna up there on top of Baru, that allows the signal to reach, I guess, Volcan. And
Volcan, Bocas del Toro, Santiago in Veraguas,
Santiago, yeah.
and Coiba,
Uh-huh.
Coiba, the island of Coiba,
Boca Chica.
Boca Chica, I mean, all over. And there is a mining town in the province of Colón. The copper mine is closed right now. No, it's not closed. A lot of Chiricanos used to work there, and they listen to Radio Chiriqui there, because it's funny, you know, nature, sometimes the signal won't go to some place, but it will travel to another one, you know. And I have to say this on the radio. When I was 8 years old, 7 years old, I woke up 5:30 in the morning, because my father he collected news, and he had a Hallicrafter radio, a big one,
Oh yeah.
shortwave.
Yep.
And I was so curious. What was my father doing? Here is Radio Moscow, Radio Havana, and BBC Londres. You know, my father was collecting news from all over, because there was no television,
Nope.
no internet. I mean,
Shortwave was the only one, and that was
yes.
that,
Yeah,
I have a ham radio operator's license,
Uh-huh.
and I got that in 1970. Let's see, 5, I think, or 76, maybe 77.
okay.
And my dad loved radio, and he said, "Okay, well, I had a little cheap set top tabletop ham radio. It was the cheapest one I can find. I think it was like $400 or $500 back then, and that was a lot, still a lot of money. And I had a little a 9-foot steel and whip antenna, which was actually made for a car, bolted to the side of the house.
Okay.
And I was getting, you know, I was receiving and transmitting, you know, within, you know, maybe 15 or 20 miles. And my uncle had come up to me and he said, "Hey, you know what? I got an idea." Now my uncle had some money, and he came back to the house about maybe a week later, and he had this Yaesu FT101E ham radio went from 2 to I think 30 meters. It was a tube set.
Uh-huh.
And he set it on a table. He goes, wait a minute, we're not done yet. Went back out to his van, and he brought out a 500 watt bilinear amplifier, set that on the table, and he goes, don't turn that on, I'll be back in about a week. So, okay, no problem. I continue with my little set-top box and my little antenna on the side of the house. Well, my uncle showed up, oh, good night, probably maybe a month and a half later, with a flatbed, with what looked like equipment to build a bridge. Turns out it was a 40-foot tower.
Uh-huh.
And he came in, dug a hole. He had his guys come in, put concrete, put this 40-foot tower up, and then he says, okay, don't do anything yet. Come back about 3 or 4 days later with, and if anyone's knows anything about radio, you'll know what I'm talking about. He bought me a Moonraker 6 multi-directional beam antenna.
Okay.
Put it up. The thing was probably 30 feet wide. It had six extensions on it, and one long, and it had a giant motor, and it had a control box. When we hooked that thing up and flipped that amplifier on, I was not only transmitting but receiving all over the world.
Wow.
And it was unbelievable. It was by far, still is one of the coolest things that's ever happened to me. It's one of the things that got me.
You make a lot of friends, right?
All over the world, know, and now it's nothing now because we have the internet, but back then, I'm talking to people in China, I'm talking to people in England, I'm talking to people in the Soviet Union, when it was still, the Soviet Union, and I'd get on my radio. My dad bought me a TUG-8 D104 lollipop microphone, and for years, I locked myself up in that little room behind my garage.
A lot of people did. Yeah.
And I talked on the radio and an opportunity had come my way back in the late 70s to do traffic and weather.
One time I went to a hotel in the States, and there was a reunion, a big reunion of associations of shortwave.
Ham radio operators.
Ham radio, yes. And I couldn't believe there were people from all over the world.
Everywhere. The people that don't understand how important radio in general is, that you can, and I'm not putting down technology. I mean, I'm a computer engineer. I get it. I know it's fantastic and it's wonderful, but there is nothing to me that compares to sitting in a dark, smoke-filled room behind my garage back in the 70s. And just turning that dial and hearing a station come in and having the ability to push to squeeze the stalk on the mic and communicate with them and talk back and forth. And here I am. I'm in New York, and they're in Manila, or they're in Spain. And I'm having a conversation with them, and everyone's like, "Yeah, I was talking to my friend on WhatsApp, and he's over." No, it's cool, but it ain't the same thing.
Yeah,
There's
I remember.
Nothing that compares.
And the language they use, Mama, Papa here, HBO,
Oh, there's
you get confused.
Yeah, well, there's a whole language of Q signals, QTH. It's almost like old CB radios. And the police and the fire, they have 10 codes. Ham radio, shortwave has Q codes. And sometimes, if the signal isn't strong enough, I had a little contraption on my desk that was Morse code.
Wow!
And I had to learn Morse code to get my
license.
My operator's license, my ham radio operator. It's not a requirement anymore, but I had to learn Morse code. Of course,
and through emergencies, I mean, people with ham radios are big help.
Yeah, I had been involved in a couple of 1970. I can't even remember now because you remember. But there was a massive earthquake in Italy, and all their communications were down except for ham radio.
Yes.
And they were trying to reach people, their relatives across the world. So I was part of that network. As to where I would, they would send me, or through either Morse code, or if they can get the signal up, names and cities, to find out, to let these people know. And we passed that on to another group of people who would find those people and let them know their loved ones are alive. And it was so complicated and it was so time consuming because they didn't have the technology like we have today. But radio has always played an unquestionable role in emergencies.
True. True. Well, in Chiriquí, you know, there's a lot of mountains here, and radio plays, I mean, an important role. You never know. Right now who is listening, even out in the sea, fishermen. I mean,
Sure.
people in the mountains, agriculture people. I mean, you'll be amazed how important radio is, especially in the province of Chiriquí. You can listen to more than 17 stations,
Sure.
you know, here in Chiriquí, but we're lucky, and I'm not exaggerating, but Radio Chiriquí, if it's not the number one, is number two.
No, that's got to be number one.
And I invite you, Al. I wanted to say something important. If you're part of a group, and you think that in Boquete you are doing something important that has to be said, please get in touch with Al.
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook. My
Right.
profile is public. You can find Boquete Now Talk Radio on Facebook. Just
True.
type in Boquete Now, it'll come up. And yeah, let me know because I'm always looking for
Share, yeah.
looking for guests who can let us know. Here's what we're doing in our province. Here's what we're doing in our
Right.
town.
You remember the time we brought this lady from Scotland with the butterflies and the honey?
Oh yeah, Emily Howarth.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
she's been on the show a couple of times. Hi Emily, if you're listening.
Yes. And,
Boquete Bees. Yeah.
Boquete, yeah, and it's not just Boquete, because I know there are a lot of English-speaking people in Volcan.
Oh yeah.
You can come to the program, and if you cannot come to Boquete, we can do the show with Skype,
Sure.
video and audio. So it's an invitation. Or if you feel that your job here in Boquete or Chiriquí is so important and you want to do a show, your own show, please come and talk to me, Radio Chiriquí. I'll give you my phone number right now. It's very easy. 66440033.
And I'll put that
That's
in
my phone number.
And I'll put that in the when I do a promotion, a recap of the show, and I'll make sure I put that in there. Yeah, this is your radio, my friends. You know, this is your voice to the community. It's not meant to replace social media. It's not meant to replace interpersonal relationships. The radio is very important. I can't tell you how many times I spent a lot of time up in the mountains here in Alto Tiel and Los Ananios and Aramillo, and I have no signal on my cell phone, but I got a strong radio signal. So sometimes this medium is the only way to get information out to people who might not otherwise be able to have it. So, like I said, you can drive through the mountains here, you can drive through areas where you look at your cell phone and it says no service, but you still got a radio signal coming through. So if you've got, and I've had people on the show that live up in areas where there's almost no signal, that contribute a lot. Dr. Dave's with Global Food Providers is one of them, and there's many of them here that are doing really, really important work in town, and nobody knows who you are if you're listening, and we need to know. We need to know who you are. We need to know what you're doing, and if you need help, we'll be more than happy to say, hey, you know what? These people are providing shoes to the indigenous. They need a little help. So, here's their information, and I'll always include your information on my show. I reach a lot of people on social media, and if your cause or your program is important and needs to be put out there, I will make sure that it gets out to the, I don't know, I got maybe 20
you mentioned something that I'm not very sure that is possible. Starting Monday, we still cannot go from province to province,
right?
Unless you have a salvoconducto, unless you have a paper
that says this is why you
need
to be
there.
Yeah.
But
they're trying to get people to not, go to the beaches and to also keep that sanitary. They said the sanitary fence is still up between provinces. This isn't. Seen people on Facebook. Oh, the quarantine's lifted. No, man, it's not lifted.
No.
They said it's going to be a very slow
True.
and very deliberate process. It's for
True.
our own safety. Whether you like hearing that or not doesn't matter. If you compare the entire country of Panama to other countries or states in the United States that have a similar demographic, similar number of people, we are so far below the infection rates. We are so far below the fatality rates,
Okay.
and we're so far below that R factor that we need to keep that. There are states in the United States that have 4 or 5 million people, and they've got 20,000 dead. We've got 300, and that's not saying that's not taking anything away from the memory of these people.
Yeah.
But there's a reason why Panama has gone to the lengths they have, and we're better for it.
Yes.
So, so I know. Look, it's tough. Nobody likes being, stuck in their house. My wife's going nuts. She's a very social person, but we need to understand that our government they're not looking to do anything nefarious. They're really just, no one's been through this before. There's a reason they call it a novel corona, but it's the first time it's happened.
True.
And we're really just trying to figure out how to get to the next stage. There may be commonalities with other viruses out there, but this is new. It's novel. And
Expressed so easily.
Yeah. So I think we just need to let cooler heads prevail. We get a little more freedom on Monday. We can go out with our spouses again.
Sure.
We can do, I'm thankful for that because I've been doing all the grocery shopping. My wife doesn't drive. I've been spending way too much money at the grocery store. Go out and get some fruits and vegetables, and here I am with Cheetos and Oreos and Hershey's, so.
We're lucky to be in Boquete.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, because I talked to my daughter. She lives in Panama City. She lives in a big apartment, but still an apartment.
An apartment, yeah.
I mean, the kids, she had to close the balcony and make like a patio.
Yeah.
So with plants and everything. So the kids, I have 2 grandchildren. She's 5, and the other one is 2, and they miss going out.
We definitely, and this, I know to some it doesn't seem like enough, but you look at what people have been concerned about, especially pet owners. Now, fortunately, I have a fenced-in yard. I can just let my dogs out.
Yes.
Now you can walk your dogs. You can take a walk with. You can go out and walk your dogs. That they had said that.
Not on the wild side.
No, not on the wild side. But you can now. They are slowly lifting these, and I'm thankful that I'll be able to drop my wife off at the grocery store on Monday because I'm horrible in grocery shopping. I will buy junk food.
It happens to me
I
also.
will buy junk food every single time. And I always forget the little bags. Those bags.
Yes,
I forget I must have 300 bags in my house now.
That happens to everybody.
You got another bag? Well, yeah, I had to. I forgot them. Well, we're getting close. We got a couple minutes left, Bolivar. Our engineer.
2 minutes.
2 minutes. We got 2 minutes. All right. Well, is there anything that you'd like to say before we close the show out?
Yes. Thank you, Al, and I'll be listening also to Mike Weber at 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock today. Strange
Brew, and tomorrow at 10 o'clock
Yeah.
with Dr. Shannon.
Yes, please, everybody, I implore you, if you can
Talking
eke out
to your
an hour,
doctor.
That's going to be a great show. Dr. Shannon is a wealth of information. She's a friend of mine. I have an immense amount of respect for her.
Her father, I didn't know. I was talking to her. Her father was the commander of Gorgas Hospital.
Yes,
the medical commander.
Yes. There's so much knowledge and talent in that family. It's unfathomable.
We're lucky to have Dr. Shannon here. In
very
Boquete.
lucky. So that's tomorrow at 10 o'clock right here on Radio Cherokee 103.3 FM. Roger, thank you so very much. I know you're a busy guy for coming and talking to us, and thank you personally from me for the opportunity to do something I love to do.
Oh yeah.
This is wonderful for me. You have been listening to Boquete Now on Radio Cherokee 103.3 FM. We are sponsored by Big Daddy's Grill, Boulder 54 in the Tap Out Sports Zone. We've been talking with Roger Guerra, who owns the station, and his family has owned the station for a while, and we've learned some really interesting things. And if you can get down that back road there by the fairgrounds, take a look at that Jeep. There's a ton of history.
That's true.
That.
That's true.
I want to thank
it's
you.
Still running.
It's still running. It's still running.
Thank you, Bolivar. And thank you, Veronica, Downey David.
And David. Thank you, everybody who makes this show possible. I will see you next week. I will talk to you next week. Until then, pasen un día, mi amigos y amigas, and thank you very much. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Bye.
Woo. All right.
Thank you.
Oh, no, thank you, man.
As soon as you invited me, I said, of course.
Now, next week, I got to figure out who I'm going to... I was thinking about trying to get a hold of somebody that actually works in Mensa that speaks English. And I haven't found that yet. But I would like to get somebody from Mensa on the show that can talk directly to the English-speaking population.
Let me inquire, because probably it doesn't need to be from Boquete, but from David.
From David. And I know it being a government agency,